So how do you go about rebuilding a nation's entire industrial base? In this explainer, we're going to break down a really ambitious strategy to do just that. We'll dig into a plan to bring manufacturing jobs back home, look at the policies described as rocket fuel to get it done, and explore a huge crackdown on fraud that's aiming to clean up government spending. You ready to see how this all fits together? Let's jump right in.
And this quote right here, it pretty much says it all. The whole idea we're exploring isn't just about churning out more products. It's about something much deeper. It's about reinforcing the very foundation of the country's manufacturing power, from the smallest mom-and-pop supplier all the way up to the biggest industrial giants.
Okay, so you've got this big vision. How do you actually make it happen? Well, it starts with a pretty simple but powerful idea. You connect the little guys with the big players. We're talking about a focused, strategic effort to get small, innovative businesses plugged right into the supply chains of America's industrial titans.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. There's a real-world example called the Matchmaking Expo. You can kind of think of it like industrial speed dating. It's where these small suppliers get a chance to pitch their stuff directly to some of the biggest names in the business. The whole point? To build new, powerful partnerships right here on American soil.
And we're not talking small scale here. The size of this thing is, well, it's huge. You've got giants like Ford, Boeing, even NASA on one side of the table. And on the other, almost 900 small businesses, all ready to prove they've got what it takes. This is way more than a few new deals. It's about weaving a tighter, more resilient industrial web.
But you know, an event like this Matchmaking Expo, it can't just happen in a vacuum, right? It needs the right conditions, the right environment to really catch fire. And that's where a specific set of economic policies comes into play. Policies that have been called the rocket fuel for this whole manufacturing comeback. So what's in this so-called rocket fuel? Well, it boils down to a four-part recipe. Cut taxes to give businesses more capital to invest. Slash regulations to get rid of red tape. Push for fair trade deals to level the playing field. And ramp up energy development to keep costs down. The idea is to create a business climate where small manufacturers feel confident enough to grow, to hire, and to innovate.
So why all this focus on small businesses? This number tells you everything you need to know. A whopping 98% of all manufacturers in the entire country are small businesses. They're not just a piece of the puzzle. For all intents and purposes, they are the puzzle.
And you can really feel that confidence building up. According to a recent survey, a full 70% of these small manufacturers are expecting their revenues to grow. That's not just about staying afloat. That's about planning to expand and looking toward a bigger future.
And look, this isn't just wishful thinking or a good feeling. The hard data from the Institute for Supply Management shows that U.S. factory activity has been growing for 2 straight months. That's a pretty clear signal that there's some real momentum here.
Okay, so boosting manufacturing is one side of the coin. But to really get the economy firing on all cylinders, you've also got to make sure that public money is actually being spent the right way. That's why, at the same time as this manufacturing push, there's another massive effort underway, a nationwide war on fraud.
Right. So what is this war on fraud anyway? What are we talking about here? Essentially, it's a huge 50-state crackdown to find and stop people from misusing federal benefits. And it's especially focused on programs that, historically, just haven't had enough oversight.
And the problem? Well, it's a big one. Think about this. A $50 billion small business administration program that had apparently never been audited. Plus all the fraud we saw with COVID relief loans. So the response? It's been pretty direct. A full audit of that SBA program is now happening. And in California alone, more than 112,000 entities have been banned from getting any future aid because of fraud.
And really, what this all comes down to is one simple word: accountability. The argument is simple. When people see their tax dollars being wasted or, even worse, stolen, it just chips away at their trust. So the goal here is to restore some of that trust by making sure the money goes where it's actually supposed to go.
All right. So we've got a manufacturing push on one hand and a fraud crackdown on the other. But what does all this mean for the future? You know, for the actual jobs people are going to have. That's where the conversation turns, to the skills, the technology, and the workforce that we're going to need next. 400,000. And no, that's not a typo. Right now, as we speak, there are 400,000 open jobs in American manufacturing. This isn't some 10-year forecast. This is a massive, immediate need for workers that companies are scrambling to fill today.
But here's the thing. There's a huge catch. It's not about the old-school assembly line jobs you might be picturing. The whole game has changed. Today's factories are incredibly high-tech, and they demand a new kind of worker, someone with specialized technical skills to run the show.
And you know what's at the heart of this huge shift? You guessed it, artificial intelligence. Right now, half of all small businesses are already using AI. And by 2030, that number is expected to jump to 80%. That's an incredible pace of change, and it's completely rewriting the rulebook for what skills are valuable.
Which all leads to this final big question. As technology like AI continues to change everything, what will the future of work in America really look like? It's pretty clear the jobs of tomorrow are going to be different, more technical, more analytical. So the real challenge at the heart of all this is, how do we get the next generation ready for that reality? What do you think is the single most important skill someone will need for the factory of the future?